This is Umar Ahmed for IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast. Today I'm joined by trainer Jamie Moore. Thank him for his time. Obviously, must have been a very difficult few days for yourself, Jamie, but I know you just went on a break with the other half, so nice to kind of just switch off and relax for a bit.
Yeah, mate. It's just seems it's been relentless. You can imagine for the last sort of five days or so. Just well, trying to come to terms with what's happened and put it into words with people, how they feel and stuff like that, and what can be done, you know, moving forward. How should things change? You know, all them conversations have been going on, and just got a little breakaway with the missus for a birthday up in the Lake District, which was nice. And yeah, it was good actually to just turn my phone off and just sort of relax and not think about it for a few hours.
Yeah, I bet. Let's start with the positive in terms of Jack Catterall's performance. You guys were adamant, you know, in the build up to this fight on fight week that you were going to pull this off, and the whole world didn't believe you. And you know, Jack hadn't gone up to that elite level yet, so you can't blame the boxing industry and the fans for not picking Jack, because Josh is the one who had proved it at that level. But yeah, you and Nigel were completely adamant that you'd do it. In 99% of people's views, you did do it. So a brilliant performance from Jack. Let's just start there.
Yeah, I'd said it a few times in the weeks building up, and certainly fight week, did we sort of go in, you know, question was being asked, and rightly so, how does Jack Catterall beat Josh Taylor? And my answer was always, listen, watch it on Saturday and see. And the emphasis was always to Jack during training camp was, Josh Taylor's got to come and beat you. That's where he's going to find it difficult. Like everybody else who you've fought or who comes to the gym, or we go to their gym, you know, fights in America when we've been over there in Vegas and New York sparring Jack, all say the same thing when they get out of the ring afterwards. They're like, shit, he's so hard to pin down and catch cleanly, and people don't realise that. And even me as a boxing, as a boxer, then a fan, and working for Sky as a pundit, and then eventually training Jack. I had my fighters sparring Jack and stuff, and he'd been to my gym quite a few times, and I always wondered why. You know, afterwards was always thinking, oh, you know, maybe they've had an off day, or you know, not everyone has a good spar every time, because Jack was always so good and so hard to nail down. On the surface, he seems much easier to get to than he is. And over the years, I've sort of become to understand why. And I just knew that Josh would struggle pinning him down. And I've been saying during fight week, one of the things what we're going to do is use Josh's best asset against him, which is his tempo, his eagerness. You know, he likes to be in front of you, and his output is phenomenal if you let him. And those little subtleties, the defensive stuff, it was scrappy at times, and I think a lot of it, you know, it come from both sides though. You know, there was a lot of holding, a lot of scrappiness. I think the southpaw styles didn't gel. They gelled much better than most southpaw styles do, but you know, when both guys was missing with the left hand, they were sort of coming to a 90-degree angle, and one or the other would end up lower down, and as the fight progressed, it ended up scrappy. But it's just, I've watched it back 3 times now, and I can't give Josh more than 4 rounds. I'm trying, you know, I'm no matter how hard I try, when I try and look at the fight, I can't give him any more than 4 rounds. And you know, I said this yesterday to somebody else, if, just for argument's sake, if you can squeeze 6 out of it, which I think is impossible, but even if you can squeeze 6, then Jack still wins because of the knockdown. So the point deductions cancel each other out. So Jack still wins if you can give him 6, and you can't give him 6. So I was really just can't understand how they've come to that conclusion. And what, you know, when I've watched it, and I'm sort of just sitting there trying to do it as a neutral, and I'm not trying to give Josh rounds. You know, you can go as far as to say you can only give him 2. So, you know, I don't. What can you do? What are they going to do? I really don't know.
Jamie, I think if I remember correctly, the knockdown for Jack was in the 8th, was it?
Yeah.
So before that, the previous 7 rounds, a lot of media around me had Jack winning all them 7 rounds, or I think a lot of people also had Josh winning one of the rounds. So they had Jack 6-1 up after.
Yeah,
7.
he won round 7. He won round 7. Yeah. So I had it after 7 rounds. I had Jack 6-1.
Yeah.
And I think I think it was the second round was a bit close. I still think Jack won it, but you know, there is a little bit of a, if he was swayed towards Josh for that round, then I understand. So, but I had it 6-1, and then after 8 rounds, when he knocked it, as soon as he knocked him down, I nudged Nige in the corner, and I went, he needs a fucking knockout now. So basically, I got asked the question during fight week, are you worried about the decision going against you? And I said, you know what, that's the first. Yeah, I said that's the first time I thought about it. I'd never thought about it up until that point. And even during the fight, it never came to me. The first time since you said it to me, it ended in my head was when I heard Jack's name. So the first scorecard got read out, and they said Jack Catterall. And as soon as they said Jack Catterall, I knew it was a split. And I thought, fuck off, don't tell me we're getting jobbed here. And we did.
A lot of talk, of course, about one of the scorecards in Ian John Lewis, 114, 111 to Taylor. Your thoughts?
Mate, speechless about that one. Just listen. And then Victor Loughran, you know what? I've got a lot of time for Victor as well, obviously because of he refereed my fight with Matt Macklin. Yeah. So the amount of sort of attention that fight gets. So we've got quite a good relationship. Every time I see him, I always have a good laugh. And I know it's a professional, you know, so you've got to be professional about it and stuff like that. But I really like him, and I actually think he's one of the best in the game. He's brilliant. I just really can't understand even his scorecard. And but Ian John Lewis giving it by that much, that literally, what was he watching? Was he watching? Was he concentrating? Did he just assume that Josh was going to win and I wasn't really paying attention? These are all questions what I've been asking myself, because you know these questions about corruption and stuff like that, and I'm just not having it. You know, I've been in this game 30 years and never ever have I heard one single story about someone getting a fucking brown envelope or whatever. Just and even if there was, then how does it happen? Why, you know, from what, who would gain from it and stuff like that? Just doesn't make sense to me. The only thing what can, I think, which is at play is concentration. Do people just assume? Are they watching only what Josh is doing because he's the champion and he's their, you know, more preferred fighter or whatever? I really don't know. Can't put my finger on it. But it's you just keep. You always get back to you end up at the same conclusion. He's like, it's all irrelevant. You know, we're still sat here, pig sick. Nothing will get done about it, probably. You know, I know they're doing an inquiry into it, but I said this as well the other day. You know, the Boxing Board of Control judged the fight. You know, let's treat them all as an umbrella. The Boxing Board of Control judged the fight. The result, what they returned, was highly controversial and hardly anybody agrees with him. So we're going to do an inquiry, and the Boxing Board of Control are going to do an inquiry on themselves and come up with a decision to see whether they was right or wrong. It's insane. So, and again, I'm not saying it's corruption. I'm saying it doesn't make sense that the Boxing Board of Control can look at themselves and go, yeah, I was wrong there. I'm going to correct my mistake. It's never going to happen. So, and it's difficult. It is high pressure. You know, they're under a lot of pressure, and you know, I don't know how much judges and referees get paid. So, I don't know whether it's worth it. But when you're in a powerful position, there is a lot of pressure, and you have to be able to deal with it. And if you can't deal with it, then it's probably not the type of thing for you to do.
Should they not answer to a wider governing body, like a UK sports governing body? I don't know if that exists, but should they not be accountable to someone?
Absolutely. You know, not even necessarily accountable, but they shouldn't be the ones who make a decision on whether this was fair or not, based on them actually coming to that conclusion in the first place. And this is what I'm saying about having it as an umbrella, because you've got to say that, because as much as Rob Smith will want to be fair and just, you can't hang his people who work underneath him out to dry in a certain sense, because nobody would probably want to do that job. So he's not. I don't feel like the inquiry is going to turn around and he's going to go, listen, we've looked into it and we've had three. You know, as a scenario, this could be and should be, I think, a fair thing to do. When there's such a controversial decision where the vast majority of people, I'm not talking boxing fans, to be honest. I'm talking about highly reputable, experienced, well-respected people in the game. I've had hundreds of messages from ex-fighters, promoters, managers, pundits, just literally everybody who's anybody in this sport messaging me or ringing me saying, I can't believe what's happened. It's ridiculous. So, and then every now and again someone says, oh, Carl Froch said this. So you're talking about one person to thousands of people on the other side. So when that happens, they've got to look, surely at some point they've got to look at it and go, right, okay, everyone can't be wrong. So what do? Maybe something like get 3 independent judges separately, let them watch the fight. If all 3 people, you know, no sound on, just watch the fight. If all 3 guys agree that it's the wrong decision, then it gets overturned. But only an independent body would be brave enough or powerful enough to do that, because the British Boxing Board of Control aren't going to do that themselves.
No. I think we have had investigations before. If I remember correctly, when Ritson boxed Vasquez, I think there was an inquiry to that, and nothing came of that. So I'm sure you and Jack aren't expecting anything of this, Jamie.
Not necessarily from the British Boxing Board of Control, because, to be fair, if they turn around and said, we're going to reverse the decision, who's to say all the world governing bodies would agree with that and accept it? So I think we've lodged an appeal to the WBO to force an immediate rematch, which by the sound of it, Taylor is going to move up, so he wouldn't fulfill. So then Jack would get the opportunity to fight for one world title, but he's never going to get that chance. He's never going to have that moment, which he should have had. And you know, he stepped aside. I've said this so many times now, but he stepped aside for the greater good of the sport. It's always better to have one recognised, unified, undisputed champion. And for selfish reasons, he also did it because then he would get the opportunity to do that and be that. So if all the governing bodies agreed that he was hard done by and he should have got the decision, then you'd like to think in an ideal world that they'd all say, okay, well, he can fight, all the titles will become vacant, he can fight for them all. But again, the politics involved with mandatories and stuff like that, I just can't see that happening either. But, you know, what a lovely sportsmanlike gesture that'd be from all the governing bodies if they all, for one time, agreed for the greater good of the sport. You know what, this kid's been hard done by. If Josh is going to move up, you know, I've had people saying to me they should make Josh rematch him, you know, and he's got to be at 140. If Josh is struggling at the weight that badly, you know, he didn't look great on the scales. Never in a million years should anybody be forced into a rematch that way, because it's fucking dangerous. You know, it's not good. So if Josh moves up and then Jack was able to fight for all the belts, that, you know, he'll probably and should rightly get an opportunity to fight for the WBO because he was their mandatory. But if he fought for them all and then won, then I'm pretty sure that Jack would go, do you know what? I'll move up to 147 myself and let's have this rematch. You know, it's not a grudge, or it's not a dislike, or it's not a personal thing with Josh. It's just he's an athlete. He's a winner. He's got a winner's mentality. He firmly believes that he won, and he wants to right that wrong.
I get what you're saying there, but considering obviously each governing body will have their number ones and numbers twos in their rankings at 140, I just don't see that happening. I think probably your best case scenario is that you get a shot at the WBO, being honest.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm anticipating. Jack sort of thinks so as well. You just hope that the WBO do the right thing and go, yeah, straight rematch, and then as that transpires, Josh will probably declare that he's moving up officially, and then Jack would get matched with whoever unboxed for the vacant title. But I'm just praying that something like that happens for him, because God does he deserve a break after what he's been through for the last couple of years.
He definitely does. How is he mentally at the moment?
Spoke to him just an hour or so ago, and yesterday and today is much better. You could hear it in his voice, his disappointment over the first few days. But he woke up yesterday, and I think he had like a bit of a right, fuck you attitude. I'm not having this, and you could see he was really positive in his voice. And he said, "I'll be back in the gym Monday." He said, "And let's get this let's get this show on the road and get fighting for the world title if we get the opportunity."
That's good to hear. Jamie, we'll come on to some horrific stuff really with Josh and Danielle getting death threats over this. We'll come on to that in a second, but just want to speak to you about Ben and Josh. So I spoke to Ben today, actually. He's still adamant that, they nicked the fight. Josh Taylor believes they still won the fight. So what have you made of that? A lot of fans have been calling them for them to just come out and say, you know what, it wasn't our night and we think Jack won. What have you made of their comments?
I just think I never expected them to say it. I just think, not just them, but fighters in general are very proud people, and sometimes your own ego gets the better of you. You won't, even though you might think it. If the words come out your mouth, you feel like a sort of lesser person. And I'm not upset with them to a certain extent with not coming out and admitting it, because I didn't expect them to. There's very, very few fighters who've ever done that in the past. If they feel like they've lost, say it. I think there's only one outright came out, was Richie Woodall, when he lost to, was it Glenn Cattler? And he just said, "Listen, I didn't win that fight. Glenn won, and I'm going to give him a rematch," or whatever he said. But I've never really heard anybody come out and admit it. So Jack feels like they should, but he obviously feels more aggrieved than anyone, because that was his moment, what he'd worked for all his life, and he'll literally never get it back. And I can't imagine how upset he is, because I know how upset I've been. So just every time I think about how he feels, it knocks me sick. Do you know what I mean? It's just horrible.
What did you make of Ben saying in the last round to Josh, "We've got to stop Jack here"?
That's it. It's not rocket science. He said the right thing. Any trainer in the right mind with their fighter in that position would be given that type of instruction. And and again, I've watched it back 3 times now, and body language is massive. The way you're feeling inside, you're expressing in sort of the way your expressions and your body language are massive in that context. And even in the corner, you can see when I'm talking Jack and stuff like that, everything relaxed, because there was nothing to panic about. There was no need for me to give him any urgency. And like I say, after the 8th round, I thought he needed a knockout. And as long as Jack didn't do anything stupid and get himself caught and dragged in and start fighting Josh's fight, then we was home and dry.
Jamie, it's really good to hear that, Jack spoke to you and said that Monday I want to be back in the gym. Really want to see him in the ring as soon as we can, because his stock has, it's not what you wanted, but his stock with the fans has gone really up, and everyone will be tuning into Jack Catterall's next fight. However, I saw some rumours about, you and Nigel saying you're sick of this sport. I don't know if that was just an immediate reaction and you don't want to carry on. Please tell me you're going to carry on.
So I said that literally straight after on the Sky Sports interview, and that's how I felt. I literally felt like, what is the point in? There's literally no point in us putting all this effort in. So to help other people, I said this loads of times as well. I'm not in this sport to achieve. You know, I wouldn't have seen myself the other day as I've won an undisputed title as a trainer. That's not my mindset. My mindset's always about the fighter, and I would have been proud to have been able to help Jack achieve that. He's achieved that, nobody else. But the next morning, I woke up with a sort of fuck you attitude. Like, you know, these decisions happen so often, far too often. And in a sport I absolutely adore, and I have done since I was a kid. And I feel like I'm a nice person, I'm a good person, and I try to do the right thing all the time. So if I walk away, there's one less person in the sport trying to fight for the right things and what's good in the sport. And then as the day went on, I was thinking, do you know what? This is horrible for us personally, but trying to be unselfish. If this is a turning point in the sport and it makes the judging better, or they have to be more accountable, and less of these things happen, or maybe eradicates it near enough totally out of the sport, then it won't be for nothing then. And I know it probably seems like we keep banging on about it and we keep pushing, but we've got to push it now while it's a topic on people's minds, because if we don't and we let the dust settle, people just turn around and go, oh, well, listen, it's old news that. Yeah. So we'll crack on, and we need to do it now. Something needs to be done now. Rob Smith, I understand Rob's under a lot of pressure, but he's in a position where he must get to a point where he thinks this is happening too often. So we can't just keep doing nothing. We've got to do something. And he's in a position where he can go, right, he can be like a pioneer and go, this can't keep going on. We're going to implement changes, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. You know, off the top of my head, I don't really know what, but we can't keep going. Well, we've been speaking about this for years and we don't really know what to do, because something's got to change. Something's got to change.
Yeah, I remember when we used to tar Germany and Russia, 10, 15 years ago with this kind of brush, and now it's happening regularly in Britain. We see it in almost every couple of weeks. Also, is this dangerous where, fans are being turned off the sport? You got young kids watching that fight on Saturday who then potentially might think, well, if I work my whole career for this, get to the point like Jack did, just to get it taken away from me, I'll go and do something else.
Yeah, that's it. See, I said that directly after ringside on the Sky interview, and people, I think it's made people, it sort of opened up a different thought process on it for people, because they might never have even thought about that. He's my son. He was my son who made me think about it, because as we walked off, it was only me and him. We walked up the ramp and round the back where no one was there, and he just sort of went, why do I love this sport? And it was like a legitimate thought what was in his mind at that point in time. And I thought, if he's thinking that, how many other kids across the country or the world are thinking that? So, not only that, you touched on it before, these decisions aren't just ruining people's lives in terms from a boxing point of view. It's a financial point of view, because Jack's future earnings then could potentially, or near enough certainly will be impacted. But then you've got that situation where people are sending Josh and particularly his missus threats like it's outrageous, and I know it's not a direct result of the judging, but really it is, because of what has happened, and it's not gone well and everyone's upset. I'm not by any stretch of the imagination am I condoning people getting upset about it, but people do get upset, but then react stupidly like that and start doing extreme things, and it's absolutely not their fault. It's not Josh's or his fiance's fault, and they're being targeted for people not doing the job right.
Yeah, I was just going to finish this interview on that note. As you said, the judges have made their call, and even they shouldn't be getting death threats. But let alone someone who's got nothing to do with it. They haven't
No,
they haven't done
exactly.
anything with the scorecards or anything like that. I mean, yeah, just your comment on that.
Well, that's why I put a tweet out there. You know, so maybe, you know, I'm sort of getting involved in something what's nothing really to do with me, but because I'm involved in that situation, I thought, like, people who are supposedly think they're supporting us and are on our side are going to do stupid, extreme things like that, and it's outrageous. People, you know, it's a sport, and the judges and the officiating has had that knock-on effects on people. But at the end of the day, it is a sport, and it does affect people's lives heavily. But it should never get to the extent where people are getting threatened and stuff like that. It's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, Jamie, I appreciate your time. I'm sorry from, you know, what's happened to you guys. But it's good to hear that yourself, Nigel, and Jack are going to be back in the gym on Monday. And hopefully Jack does get some sort of resolution with the WBO and gets a world title shot this year. I mean, that's probably the best situation you can get.
Listen, when you're a coach, you don't really get a chance to sit there and sulk, because we drove back on Sunday, and then Monday morning I was back in the gym. Matt Leach is fighting for the British title next Friday. So a week today. So we don't get a chance to just sort of sit on our, or lie on our fucking tears and soak them up, and we've just got to crack on and put a brave face on and carry on for the other lads. So we've been back in, and I think what I'll have to do is I'll have to have a delayed suspension from Nigel for getting the Cougans into the ringside. Suspended for a week or something.
Oh, that was, although it was unfortunate circumstances for you guys, that was some good viewing there. But yeah, listen, best of luck as well with Mark Leach on Friday the 11th of March against Chris Bourke. Fantastic fight, and we'll see you there at your call. All right, Jamie? Thank you.
Top man. Cheers, man. Thanks, mate.